to the battle for New York's next mayor. It's the old guard clinging to power, chasing a candidate they never saw coming. Every night, our experts break it down.
What New Yorkers want above all else is authenticity.
We're listening to the people who matter most, you, the voters. And when the candidates sit across from us, nothing's off the table. What's your plan to make New York City feel like a safer city?
S.E Cupp, that's your perception. Of course, there's a lot of crime.
So what's happening right now? Let's dive in. Welcome to Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. It's Thursday, October 9th, and we are 26 days away now from this all-important New York City mayor's race. There are 3 candidates left in this race, and later in today's show, we're going to speak with Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee for mayor. But first, let's get to some news. Joining me is Ayanna Harry, political correspondent for Spectrum News, New York 1. Ayanna, welcome back.
Thank you.
This is the news I've been waiting for. We finally have the first comprehensive poll since Eric Adams dropped out of the race. Now, we've been talking about, even before he dropped out, would that change anything? Would that help Andrew Cuomo? Would it help Andrew Cuomo even if Curtis Sliwa stays in the race? We've been dying to know this. And Andrew Cuomo, for his part, has been saying, this is helping me. And we just didn't know. We didn't know if that was true. We know now. We have a new poll from Quinnipiac. Ayanna, tell us what the results are.
Here are the top lines. Zohran Mamdani is still clearly in the lead in this race. Amongst likely voters, Mamdani had 46% support. But here's the headline, S.E. Andrew Cuomo now has 33% support. Just a month ago on September 10th, Quinnipiac found he was at 23%. Today, he is at 33%. And when we turn and look to Curtis Sliwa, he's currently at 15%, which is precisely where he was back in September. So yes, it does appear that Eric Adams leaving the race for mayor has had a pretty consequential impact on the numbers. But the numbers have benefited Andrew Cuomo most of all. Zohran Mamdani did go up very slightly, just by 1 percentage point in this poll.
What's really interesting, and I think we've been talking about this too, Ayanna, we guessed maybe some of Eric Adams' votes would go to Cuomo. Maybe they'd go to Curtis Sliwa, who's going to be with us later in the show. Maybe Mamdani. Maybe they would stay home. This is a very clear indication, a 10-point swing in the course of just over a week. Pretty good news for Andrew Cuomo's campaign.
It's excellent news for Andrew Cuomo's campaign. And if you'll look back to the Democratic primary when we were in the spring, these are the types of leaps and jumps that Zohran Mamdani was making in the polls leading up to his win in June. So now we see Andrew Cuomo picking up significant support, 10 percentage points. We are now less than a month away from Election Day. The question is, has Andrew Cuomo reached a ceiling? Has he reached a cap?
Right.
Or are there still more voters out there that he can win over and get to vote for him?
Yeah, that is the question, because he's still 13 points behind Mamdani. And we know he's trying to get Republican voters and more moderate voters and turn out every Democrat he can. That is the question. Is this the ceiling? What impact will the debates have? There's still more runway in this campaign. But, if someone was watching the week or so after Adams dropped out, no new polls were fixed, you're thinking, well, this might not really have changed the race at all. It did. It changed the race pretty significantly. No one would look at a 10-point shift and say it's the same race as it was. It is not. Okay, we're going to talk more about this poll a little bit later in the show, but I want to move on to some more news with you, Ayanna. There was a report yesterday by Gothamist and WNYC about how Mamdani will protect his front-runner status. How is he practicing risk minimization? What's he doing?
Look, he's trying to run out the clock. He's staying away from controversy, and he's honing in on those policy proposals which have already proven to be popular amongst voters. So he's not really rolling out too many new ideas, which may or may not land with voters. He's focusing on the messaging that's been working. We were with him yesterday as he rode the M57 bus, Fast and Free. That is a policy that New Yorkers know that has been popular. So he's leaning in on that. And I've also found Mamdani has been trying to broaden out his message. So, for example, at the Crain's Mayoral Forum, in a room filled with hundreds of executives, Mamdani wanted to stress that his message of affordability is also for business leaders and for the business community, not just for working class New Yorkers.
And speaking of public transportation, AM New York just did a report on where the candidates stand on things like bus and bike lanes and fare evasion. Talk a little bit about that and how important those issues are to New Yorkers.
So when it comes to fare evasion, I know fare evasion is incredibly important for the MTA, but it's not as important for everyday New Yorkers. I frequently speak with strap hangers who say they're frustrated that oftentimes they'll see an officer by the turnstile looking to see whether or not someone is evading the fare and not see an officer on the platform or on a subway car where we know incidents can also happen. And then when
Yeah.
it comes to bike lanes, that is a very important issue. Bus lanes as well for New Yorkers who are trying to get around. They want to make sure they can get to where they need to go safely and quickly.
Yeah. Okay. And we're going to talk to Curtis Leeway in a little bit about his transit plan. He just unveiled some new points on that. Ayana, stay put though. I've got some more questions for you after the break. Battleground NYC. We'll be right back.
Well, I want somebody who's an effective administrator for the city, who can get things done. Of course, what's going on with the present federal administration is something we should all be concerned about, and protect the city and its rights and the rights of its citizens, but also maintaining a good standard of living.
And we're back with more Battleground NYC. Joining me again is Ayana Harry, political correspondent for Spectrum News New York One. Ayana, you spoke with voters in Williamsburg and Far Rockaway and Tottenville, to name a few. Is there a common issue that you're hearing these voters talk about as we're getting into the last weeks of the campaign?
One issue I've heard brought up in every single neighborhood, and that's affordability, particularly when it comes to housing. You think about Williamsburg, Brooklyn. This is a neighborhood known for all of those glass high rises on the waterfront. Williamsburg has been transformed through gentrification. Right now, the median price to rent a one bedroom in Williamsburg is $4,600. $4,600
Wow.
for a one bedroom in Williamsburg. So many longtime residents, they are feeling priced out. And I heard the same thing in Tottenville on the South Shore of Staten Island. This is a neighborhood where for generations, middle class families felt like they could afford a house with a lawn and a backyard and a safe neighborhood. But now things are becoming more and more expensive that a lot of these families, they're saying new couples, they're married, they want to buy a house. Now they're having to go to New Jersey. They can't afford to stay in Staten Island anymore.
Wow. Um, Andrew Cuomo announced he's got a new plan for Rikers Island. What is it?
It's a reboot. It's a revision for Rikers Island after saying for years that Rikers should be shut down. In fact, just last month, he said Rikers should have been closed a decade ago. Now, Andrew Cuomo is saying, let's keep Rikers Island, close the current buildings that are there, build new state of the art buildings on the island, and run them humanely. Part of the reason why he's saying we should do this is because there is a plan that's in place to build four new jails throughout New York City, this borough-based
Right.
plan. But those jails, they are over budget, they're behind schedule, and Andrew Cuomo has rightly said that there's a lot of local community opposition to these new jails. So Cuomo is saying instead of moving to these borough-based jails, let's just build new jails on Rikers Island. Let's run them differently. He believes it's about the management. And in order to help get people to Rikers, he wants to bring free express buses from all 5 boroughs to Rikers Island so people can visit their friends and family.
Mom Donnie's shifted on this a little bit too. And as you mentioned, Andrew Cuomo shifted his position within like a month. Does he explain how he comes to this totally new idea?
Andrew Cuomo is saying that he has listened to stakeholders and that that's part of what's brought him to this new position. We do know that he met with the groups in Chinatown very, very recently, groups that have been vehemently opposed to the Chinatown jail that is currently being built. So it
Mm.
seems like some of these voices have been able to influence Andrew Cuomo. And I'm sure he's thinking, what can I say? What can I do to try and attract those voters who may still be making up their minds with just a few weeks to go until the start of early voting?
How can I change my opinions at the last minute to get some more votes? Is what that sounds like to me. Honestly, if I'm just a voter and I saw your position shift in the course of a month from this thing to a completely different thing, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go over. Um, he appears to be wooing both sides of the aisle these days, or at least attempting to. Is that working?
He certainly runs the risk of being labeled as a flip flop. So just yesterday, when he announced this new Rikers plan, Zohran Mamdani, Curtis Lewa, they were in agreement in their criticism of Andrew Cuomo. So as he moderates his tone, as he shifts his positions, he can potentially pick up some new votes. But I think it's also going to raise questions for people who have supported him for a period of time on where he really stands on different issues.
Okay, last before we go, topic of education. Zohran Mamdani announced a new plan. He would focus on helping New York City's homeless students. What can you tell us about that plan? It's not an issue or a problem that gets talked about a lot.
It's not, it isn't talked about enough, SE. Right now, there are 140,000 homeless students in New York City public schools,
Wow.
140,000 homeless kids.
Wow.
So he wants to expand the Every Child and Family is Known initiative. And what this is, so right now it's just a pilot project. It started in the Bronx. And what it does is it seeks to connect homeless students with mentors, people in the schools who can keep an eye on them, who can track them, who can, check in with them and see, are you doing okay? One of the things that we've noticed throughout the years in covering this population is that families may move from shelter to shelter. So you
Yeah.
may actually have a student going to school in Brooklyn, living in a shelter in Brooklyn, but what happens if their family is moved to a shelter in Staten Island? That's a pretty long commute. So the aim of this pilot program is to step in, to intervene when these students may be having issues and offer them the support that's needed.
That's a shocking number. That is an abysmal number. And I work in the child hunger space, so I know how um this impacts children, but that is a deplorable amount of homeless kids. I hope, I don't care who wins, if that person can help solve that problem. So it's actually good to hear someone talking about it. Ayana, Harry, thanks so much for your reporting as always. It's really great to have you.
Great to see you.
And we'll be back after the break. We're going to be interviewing candidate for mayor, Curtis Sliwa. He's running as a Republican. Stay tuned. More Battleground NYC after this. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. And joining me now for the bigger picture is Curtis Sliwa. He is the Republican nominee running for mayor of New York City. Curtis, welcome back to the show.
Welcome to all of you. And remember that independent line, first ever in electoral history across the nation: protect animals, no kill shelters, and animal abusers go to jail.
Absolutely. So in the last block, we talked about the new Quinnipiac poll. It's the latest, the only poll we've gotten since Eric Adams dropped out. I want to just get your reaction to it. Mamdani's at 46%, around where he was. Andrew Cuomo's moved up 10 points to 33%. You stay at 15%. What's your reaction?
Another poll, another day, 26 years, 26 days to go. We'll probably have a poll a day. I'm in this race the whole way.
I
I
know
have
you are.
enthusiastic supporters. I've raised millions of dollars in matching funds. I'm on TV. I have 10 headquarters around the city, signs everywhere. So let the voters make the determination, because remember, Andrew Cuomo was measuring the drapes just a few weeks before the end of the Democratic primary in Gracie Mansion,
Yes, he was.
and he lost by 13 points. So
It's a good point. And we know that Andrew Cuomo's trying to we know that Cuomo's going to try to go after Republican voters. You know, New York Republicans. I was a New York Republican. Are they going to be interested in what Cuomo is selling, do you think?
no cash bail. Cuomo is the very reason that we have this crime crisis. Raise the age. Now, as you mentioned in your previous segment, the man who led the effort to close Rikers Island has suddenly had an epiphany at the last second that he wants to keep Rikers Island open. You see, the C for Curtis is I've been consistent through this whole campaign, actually tracking back to 2021 when I warned you that Eric Adams would be corrupt and there'd be chaos, and I was right. Whereas Cuomo, that C means chaos. You never know from day to day, because he will change his opinion if it thinks it moves votes. And that's not what's going to be necessary to beat Zoran Mamdani. You have to be very consistent, and you have to have a get out the vote effort. That's really what it's all about. We know Zoran has one. I have
Yeah.
one. We've yet to see one within Andrew Cuomo's camp.
You had quite a fundraising haul recently. To what do you attribute that new infusion of cash?
Well, it's the average everyday New Yorkers. Remember, this is the matching funds that you can get 8-to-1 match if you're a resident of New York City, with
Yep.
an average contribution of $119. It's the average working class people who are supporting my campaign. We know the billionaires went back and forth. First, it was with Cuomo. Then they ran over to Eric Adams. Now they're running back to Cuomo. And that's where most of his money is coming from. So I would suggest that we follow the money in terms of where it's being spent and who it's being directed at. You have to manage a campaign by going door to door. You have to get your mailers out. You have to get your text messages, your emails, and most importantly, you have to micro-target your voters, because in previous mayoral elections, there's been a very poor turnout. If you can get your turnout, you can win this election.
There was an interesting line in this Quinnipiac poll that I actually think, in a way, would be good news for you. 30% of New York voters say they don't know enough about you. That sounds to me like a real opportunity for you in these closing weeks to come on and do shows like ours. I know you're doing another one right after. I hope you have a media blitz kind of in the works. And I know we have two debates coming up. How do you see that 30% of people who say they just don't know enough about you yet?
Well, those that were responding to the poll, because remember, a lot of people don't even pick up their phones any longer or respond to anything. Uh,
Mhm.
if they're curious about who Curtis is and what I'm about, they'll certainly get an opportunity with two upcoming debates that I think will be widely viewed by a lot of people. Many
Oh,
of them
yeah.
want to know who Zoran Mamdani is. They really don't know him. I describe him as Bill de Blasio on steroids. And clearly, Andrew Cuomo, everybody knows Andrew Cuomo because he fled Albany in order to avoid impeachment after being responsible for the killing of 15,000 elderly because of his executive orders. So Curtis Sliwa, they trust me. They know I'm authentic. Those who really don't know who I am, they're going to get to know me better. But I am the law and order candidate, bar none, because I'm the one who is saying we're in a crime crisis, especially women who are under constantly being targeted for sexual harassment. The pervs are out there, these random attacks. They're not random attacks. They're aimed at women. And I'm the only person who's come up with a plan to get the city back on track by hiring 7,000 cops, having transit police actually patrolling the moving cars, and putting back the homeless outreach unit from the NYPD that was disbanded by de Blasio when he defunded the budget by $1 billion. That's hands-on because I've been in the system. I'm in the subway every day campaigning. You don't see Andrew Cuomo and you don't see Zoran Mandami down there, that's for sure.
Two good points, because I want to ask you about crime. I want to ask you about your new transit agenda. So don't go anywhere. I've got more questions for you after the break. Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. We'll be right back. We're back with more Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote, one more time with Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee for mayor of New York City. Curtis, before the break, we were talking about crime and safety. And I noticed something. The most recent campaign ads by Mamdani and Cuomo were interesting. One of Mamdani's, he's sort of playing a golden bachelor, asking New York City, will you accept this rose? Kind of silly. And Andrew Cuomo's was this sort of AI generated, he's a window washer, he's working in a theater. Yours really focused on crime. It had a much different tone. I thought more serious. It was a real contrast. Do you think the other candidates are taking the issue of crime and public safety seriously enough?
No, it's clear. Zoran Mandami recognizes that's his Achilles heel because every time he's asked by one person or another person, it's a word salad response. You can just see the confidence isn't there. He's searching. Whereas with Andrew Cuomo, he's trying to figure out, are people going to think this is a flip-flop because they're going to remember what I said in 2019 compared to what I'm saying in 2025. So he'd rather not deal with that at all. And in fact, he needs to act his age. I think that's the problem. Andrew Cuomo, you're not a millennial. You're not a Gen Z. You can appeal to them, but you don't have to be goofy when you do that with that AI commercial. Whereas I'm sort of like gritty. Like, remember The Wire, the TV program about drug
Baltimore
dealing?
crime show? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The grit, the grime, the real feel. This is what New Yorkers go through every day. And I'm banking on the fact that people who have to deal with these ordeals every day are going to better relate to me than Zoran, who seems highly produced and very distant from them, and Andrew Cuomo, whose time has came and gone. He's a relic. He's like ready for the Museum of Natural History.
Sorry. Okay, let's be serious. You unveiled an aggressive new plan today to combat transit crime on subways and buses. I want to know all about it.
Yeah, well, it's imperative because a lot of the problems are being caused by the emotionally disturbed or deranged. We had this situation at J Street Borough Hall. Used to be where the MTA headquarters was, 370 J Street. It's now an NYU campus area. A guy at 3:07 in the afternoon just pummels a man to death 65-year-old man, pummels him to death and then robs his credit cards, flees. The next day, he's collared by the transit police in Times Square. He has a samurai sword on him. We look
Jeez.
at his background. He's been arrested over and over, cut loose many times because of Cuomo's no cash bail. But he's deranged. He needs to be in a mental health care hospital now that he's committed a major crime, a psychiatric hospital that's
Hmm.
also a prison. We're not doing that. We're turning him loose again and again. Now, that was at 3:07. Then at 3:15, we have the Pee Wee gang, 3 little girls, 3 little boys. And when I say that, 12, 13, 14, surround a man on the bench at the 59th Street, 5th Avenue station, which is right on the cusp of Billionaires Row across from Central
Yep.
Park, of the R, N, and W line. They rob
Hmm.
him of his iPhone and his clothes boldly and brazenly right in the afternoon at 3:15. They were probably coming from school. This is probably, after
Wow.
school hijinks for them. Then at
Yeah.
3:30 at 74th Street and Roosevelt Avenue in Jackson Heights, where you catch the E and the F and the R that connects to the 7, a man was viciously slashed numerous times. Thank God they saved his life at Elmhurst Hospital a few blocks away. But the violator is still on the lam. That's 3 major crimes in just 1 hour. And naturally, the mayor who's in Albania, his response
Hmm.
would have been, oh, that's the perception of crime. And Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch would have said it's an anomaly. No, if we had more transit police going up and down the moving subway cars in uniform, that would give people a lot of relief. We need more transit cops. We need more cops in general, 7,000, and we need them as soon as possible. We need that homeless outreach unit that knew exactly where to go to pick up the emotionally disturbed and the homeless and make sure that they were in the right setting. Living in the
Yeah.
subways and the streets and the parks, they're a danger to themselves and everyone else. These were men and women, trained professional police officers who on their
Yeah.
detail had medical nurses, mental health care nurses with them. So they're all talking about, well, de Blasio said we should be doing this. He's the one who disbanded the unit that was actually doing it when he took $1 billion out of the budget. I would restore them on day 1, January 1st, 2026, when I get sworn into office, along with the medical personnel, because they moved in and out of the shelter system and they could actually preemptively
Mm.
deal with problems. And then the other thing, you have to deal with the fare evasion. You can't keep letting people come in and out of the system, because with all the people hopping over the turnstile, going under the turnstile, going through the
Yeah.
gates, you're going to get a lot of people who are there to commit crime, who are there to rob people, and especially the pervs and the men who are out there every day sexually harassing women, no consequences. The same men, predicate offenders on the same train lines at the same time, and there are no consequences. If we can't keep the women safe, who are the majority of the workers now, who are the providers at home, many of them manage homes in which they are the parent, the one family parent taking
Mm.
care of the kids. And when you talk
Hmm.
about the nightclub industry, many of them are owners and operators and managers and workers in the nightclubs, bars, and restaurants. They cannot
Yeah.
keep affording the yellow cabs, the Ubers, and the Lyfts to go back and forth. That's how you make for a safer city and a safer transit system. But it starts with getting more cops.
Not to mention just keeping people safe, the tragic death of those 2 girls subway surfing. Having more police presence would have, probably prevented those atrocities as well. Curtis Lewa, I'm so glad you come on our show. This is the second time you've come on. Maybe we'll have you back one more time before this race is over. We really appreciate you.
Well, I'm not dropping out, so I'm available
I
to you
know.
whenever you need me.
I didn't even ask, right? You notice I didn't even ask because I
That's
know you're
right.
going all the way. Okay,
Thank you.
Curtis, thanks for
Thank
for being here, and thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow and every Monday through Friday until this race is over. Thanks for joining Battleground NYC.
Thanks for watching Battleground. We're now joining Live Now's nonstop stream of live and breaking news.
Daily update here to just talk about what's happening and where we see things headed. Joined here by our leadership team and, of course, Chairman Mike Bost, who will talk with you about the pain that's being inflicted on veterans in particular. He runs that committee. I just want to summarize everything this morning, as I've been doing on some interviews earlier today. This morning, Americans are watching a remarkable split screen. Two things happening simultaneously, and there's a rather stunning contrast between the two. On one screen, you see President Trump and Republicans delivering for the American people. You see President Trump and Republicans cutting taxes for hardworking American families. You see us ending the border crisis, ending the crime crisis. You see us eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse in government, and now resolving violent conflicts around the world. What President Trump achieved yesterday, was announced last night, is a truly historic foreign policy achievement. I mean, it cannot be understated. We should give a whole press conference just about that. The deal that he struck between Israel and Hamas will achieve incredible results, not just for that region, but for every peace-loving people around the world, everyone around the world. He's going to bring the hostages home. 2 years they've been in captivity. They'll finally be delivered home. We're all watching the images of the celebrations in Israel and around the world by people in Gaza and in Israel, that this is coming to an end. He's going to bring the hostages home. He's going to bring peace and security back to Israel and truly lay the foundation for a lasting peace in the Middle East. This is a goal and an objective that's been stated by presidents and politicians and policymakers and people around the globe for generations. And President Trump has the strength and the vision and the resolve to do it. He's the only president who could have, as has been demonstrated. And look at the other side of the screen. So that's all going on one side of the split screen. Now look at the other. The stark contrast with the Democrats who've shut down the government. Republicans are busy working around the clock to deliver for the American people, voting over and over to open the U.S. government and laying the foundation for lasting peace and working to deliver for American troops and military families. And what do you see on the other screen? Democrats playing games with the lives and livelihoods of the people we represent. They have now voted in the Senate. The Senate Democrats in the mid-'80s when I was a kid in the Reagan era. Chuck Schumer did an interview last night and bragged, this is what he said, quote, he had the audacity to say, quote, every day of this shutdown gets better for us, his party. I don't even know how to comment on that. It's so stunning to me how callous he can be to play political games and use American citizens as the pawns in a political game. We're in day 9. The consequences of this Democrat shutdown are very real, and he can mock it and he can pretend like it gets better for him. It doesn't. It doesn't get better for the country. Right now, half our civilian federal employees are on furlough. Real, vital, critical services that American citizens in all categories rely upon are halted. And when we talk specifically about our military, right now service members, military personnel at home and abroad, as well as Border Patrol agents, TSA, air traffic controllers, they're all working without pay. I was on C-SPAN this morning on that program they do in the morning where American citizens call in. They have a Republican line, a Democrat line, an independent line. One of the callers called in and she was so upset. She's a young military mother and she has 2 special needs children, as she told her story. In tears, she's so angry, and so am I, that their services are being delayed. I mentioned here at this podium last few days, I mean, I have a big military district in Louisiana's 4th District. We have Fort Polk in Barksdale Air Force Base, lots of airmen, lots of soldiers. Many are deployed right now, defending your freedom around the world. And they've left their young families at home. They live paycheck to paycheck, many of these service members. And this is not a game. Chuck Schumer thinks it is. He says, quote, every day of the shutdown gets better for us. What the heck is he talking about? All of us on this side, we're kept up at night. This is a sad situation, and we've got to get through it. Almost 3 weeks ago, just by way of quick review, the House did its job. We did the responsible thing. We passed a clean, continuing resolution, no frills, nothing to it, 24 pages, bare minimum, to keep the lights on, so that Republicans and Democrats can do their work, and get together and do this job, to deliberate and negotiate and go through the process that Congress does on everything all the time, to work on all these issues. We voted to keep critical programs funded, and that ensures federal workers get paid, that our troops and TSA agents and Border Patrol and many more get their paychecks. We had that vote almost 3 weeks ago. Virtually every Republican voted to keep the government open and to make sure those paychecks are done. The Democrats in the House, all but one, voted to close the government and, by extension, stop paying troops, stop paying TSA agents, Border Patrol, air traffic controllers, and all the rest. We've done our job, and the Democrats need to do theirs now. That ball has been sent to the other court. That is the place where it lands right now. 6 times, I remind you, they voted to shut it down. We need 5 Democrats to break ranks. We need 5 of them to wake up and come to their senses and do the right thing for the American people. How long are they going to allow this pain to be sustained? I talked with the president last night. He called me after the peace deal was done, and he and I both lament, we all do, this terrible situation that we're in. While we're working to do all these positive things for the people and even settle conflicts around the world, the Democrats are playing games. It's political theater to them. They've reduced Americans' pain to a political prop. I'll just say this briefly. I'm going to let the other leaders speak here, but just a few things that you've seen. While we're doing all this work, we're working around the clock to deliver on all these things I've just listed. Democrats are playing games. They film themselves wandering the Capitol, beating on doors and posting flyers and pretending to look for their colleagues. They hosted a live stream. Oh, it was so embarrassing. The House Democrats hosted this live stream where they ate candy and told terrible jokes to each other. They had an audience smaller than this room for the whole country. The leader of the Democrat Party is bragging about the cost that this is being borne by the American people. And just yesterday, I had 2 Democrat senators come over and stage a failed publicity stunt outside my office. I heard about it, walked out and confronted them and set them right on the truth. They came to this side of the Capitol to try to put on a little political show for their online audience, and then they walked right back over there and voted for the 6th time to keep the government shut down. Give me a break. Democrats seem to be doing everything except the one thing that Americans desperately need and deserve, and that's passing our clean CR to get the government operating again. That's all we're asking of them. Stop the political stunts. Stop the madness. Stop saying that you're enjoying inflicting pain on the American people, for goodness sakes, and pass the clean CR in the shutdown today. I'm going to turn it over first to our chairman, Chairman Mike Bost. He, as you know, works on all things regarding American veterans. He's the chairman of our committee that handles all of that. And we just wanted him to talk specifically about the costs that are being borne by our veterans because the Democrats shut down. Chairman? Thank you.
All right, as you see, they're just listening into the House GOP leadership, including Speaker Mike Johnson, talking about the government shutdown. We're going to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break and play out some of those other remarks here on the other side. Stay with us. Thanks for being with us here on Live Now. Let's continue to listen in to the House GOP leadership holding that press conference just a bit earlier today, talking about the impacts of the government shutdown. Right now, we're going to be listening in as Representative Boss, the Republican from Illinois, makes his remarks. Let's listen.
They possibly can with the money that we actually provided for them in advance for our veterans. Thank heaven we did. So the healthcare side and appointments and everything through our VA from that side is not in jeopardy yet. But let me tell you the areas that are and the concerns we have. In the CR that we pushed over 3 weeks ago now, we actually had extenders for certain programs that are vitally important, like the Fox Grant, which provides mental health in contracted mental health for many of our veterans who the suicides continue to happen at 17 a day. We also